On this episode of Work It, we're talking about the common challenges you will experience in a job hunt. Welcome back.
So we're going to talk about overcoming common challenges. This is a very good question to start with. So what advice do you have for someone that keeps getting rejected?
Oh, how did you feel with it?
I was going to say, I can go back to my high school days, but I'm not sure for the purposes of this.
I would say a couple of things. Really look at take a deep dive and are you even getting through the door? So it depends on the level of rejection that they're getting. So if they're not getting any hits, like that type of rejection, take a look at your resume and see if it's actually going. It could be that the ATS is blocking all of your things, so you're not putting in keywords that need to be input into your resume in order for an ATS to be able to actually identify it as a viable option. Aside from that, I would look at if you are getting into interviews and getting rejected, practice interviewing.
And I think I'd even revisit some of the topics we talked about earlier. Do you need to tweak your resume? Are you, like you said earlier, are you highlighting the skills that align with the job? Are you speaking about those in the interview? Mm-hmm. Have you done your proper amount of research? There are always going to be nerves in the interview process, and how are you doing to combat that? Because some of that might come through in the interview process.
Yeah. Or I also encourage people, if you're not with a recruiter who will actually give you some feedback about how your interview process went, because we usually get feedback from the clients and we can give you a little bit of a deep dive. If you're out interviewing on your own, reach out, thank whoever your interviewer was for the interview, ask them for feedback if you didn't think it went well, just so that you can actually better yourself and get more experience out of the interview process.
And also self-reflect. Take a look back. Dissect yourself at the interview. How did I answer that? Think about your answers. Were you actually able to come up with the proper method of answering the question, like a star? Are you able to dissect the solution, come up with dissect the question, come up with a reasonable solution and how you behave? So making sure that you're actually answering the interviewer's questions. Does that make sense? As opposed to just shooting off and not getting lost. I would even go back to the very beginning. Are you, like, if you're getting rejected and you're not even getting any callbacks, what are you applying for? Are you actually matching what the job requirements are? So making sure that you're going within your silo and not outreaching.
And how do you think job seekers can build up confidence? First, about getting rejected or being out of work for a little bit, or in a job that they don't really like.
Oh, you could come to one of our networking events later date.
Coming soon.
But practice networking, for one. You have to practice all of the soft skills that you would normally use in an interview, which even as a tenured employee anywhere or as an executive, you are going to be rusty in because you haven't been in the market for a while. So being able to interview, hold a conversation, make small talk, be able to answer. Those are all soft skills. Being able to answer, tell me about yourself without sounding...
Walks on the beach.
Exactly.
Playing with my cats.
Those are all really important skills to practice. So whether that is going to networking events or just practicing with somebody else.
Record yourself. Do some record yourself. Look how you look. How are you presenting? Are you articulating properly?
Mm-hmm. And then take a look at your body language and see how that presents too, because but I've also had people that are out of control and are just doing this all over the place. You're going to knock over your coffee. So there's other visible cues that you need to be aware of.
I have one more. Not answering. So when you Google and they'll be like, tell me a flaw about yourself. And you go to Google, how do I answer that question? And the top one thing is being late. So then I would set my timer or whatever. You actually have to be authentic in those answers. Don't just Google something and be like, oh, that's me, and have that scripted piece off the internet. So
well, I think even you've talked about authenticity a few times through, both of you have, and that's obviously one of the first things you need to do. The internet can be confusing. It's there to suggest, but some people, you have to be able to back it up, and people see through that kind of stuff. I know we do more and more, and I know our clients do as well. Yeah. And it's important for you to know those goals and be authentic in your pursuit of them.
For sure. And there's also, when you're doing, let's say that you're interviewing for an engineering role, and the interviewers are looking to see if you are cheating. So having your hands visible, keeping eye-to-eye focus is important, because a lot of times now you could have people interviewing for jobs that they have no business about, and with the new AI and stuff, it automatically pops up and you have that clear screen coming up with the answers. So it's really making that connection with your interviewer, keeping your hands in place so that you can see them, and just establishing that.
Yeah, it's the nervous candidates always want to have some notes in front of them. I encourage them not to make that their sole
Anchor.
when they're having an interview, because there are people that say, oh, I just want to keep some stuff in front of me. I get it. Either bring it up in the interview saying I have some notes in front of me, or really don't let it be your anchor that is actually going to sink you because you're not providing the eye contact. These virtual interviews are a challenge for all those reasons. Now I've read things that you could be interviewing somebody that doesn't even look like the person you're interviewing.
Well, that is also part of the authenticity equation, right? You need to present a version of yourself that you're going to show up to work with every single day. So if that isn't the you that's coming to the interview, you might want to rethink about whether or not that's a job that you want. And then the other thing that I wanted to say about
authenticity.
It's okay to tell the interview.
Be stuck in a job that you don't like, or
just practicing. It's okay for you to practice, but don't get stuck on the questions that you have practiced, because one of the things that are going to happen in an interview setting is going to be that they ask you something that you are not prepared for, and it's actually a tactic so that you are able to, they can see how you think on your feet and whether or not you're able to respond. So if you aren't prepared for something that's going to be like a sideways question, then and it takes you off guard, it's going to be representative of how you are going to react to an unplanned event at work. So think of every single piece of communication that you have as a cue about, it signals how you're going to behave in a work setting.
So tell the truth too, so then you don't get lost, right? As long as you're staying factual, then it's easier to keep your story and whatnot. So making sure that you're telling the truth, and if you don't know something, be forthcoming about that. Be like, I don't know that, but I see how this could relate to that, or my experience here could relate to that. And when you start the interview, it's okay to tell the interviewer, it's like my 5th interview, I'm really nervous, so bear with me if I stumble my words or whatever. And usually that leads to, oh, don't worry, it's okay. They'll tend to be a little bit more calm with you in the beginning until you find your stride.
And then the opposite too, if you feel like you are a star player and want to talk about all of your skills and experience, yes, go ahead and do that, but do it in a way where it doesn't sound like...
Be humble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, don't go in with as much bluster and bravado, because then that is also indicative of what type of team player you're going to be. Yeah. And if that's something that's important to them as a company, then they're going to pick up on that and see that you need to have accolades and all of that, and that might turn them off on you as a candidate. So think of all of the nonverbal cues that you are actually putting out into the world, because that's what you're looking at when you're interviewing.
Unless you're going for some hardcore business-driven sales, then that's the projection that you want to put out there if you're like an individual. But
Car salesman, get in there.
What are some suggestions for helping candidates stay organized if they're interviewing for multiple positions?
Oh my God, write it down.
Know who you're speaking to. It can be, and it's for clients too. Even when we're talking to candidates, I'm always careful not to refer to how many candidates are being considered for the job, because I want to keep their interest in it as well. But from a candidate perspective, know who you're interviewing with. Hopefully you're applying for similar or type roles. If you're applying for 2 or 3 different roles outside of your skill set, that might trip you up somewhere down the road.
For sure.
Scheduling. Write everything down, have a planner, have an organizer, keep it in there as much as you want to think, I'll remember this and that. Life, you're busy, so just be organized.
Also, just do a Coles notes, keep notes after your interview. To remind yourself to email your interviewer and say thank you for the opportunity, that type of thing, if you're asking for feedback. If you remember that there's a question that you wanted to ask them, that's a really good time for you to capture that and get it down on paper, and then you're able to actually remember later on when you're doing the connection that, I forgot to ask you something. There is something else I wanted to get some more information about, which is a good segue into
hire me.
Can you give me a second interview or hire me?
How do you think someone can effectively search for a job while they're working full time?
It is a full-time job on its own to look for another job. So manage your time wisely. I wouldn't recommend doing it in the middle of your workday, because if you have a lot of freedom, because a lot of hybrid positions are available and you can work remotely from wherever you like, but it also takes away from the authenticity of the type of, or even just, it says a lot about how you would treat your role in a next company.
Right.
So
Google search or Google notifications. So you have notifications on, you set the parameters so that when something comes up throughout the net, it comes to your inbox and you'll get to know. Definitely emailing, doing some research outside of your work hours, whatever that is. And you can email, a lot of times you can pull the contact for hiring managers off LinkedIn, well, any other kind of site, social
Screenshot.
site.
If I see something during the day I can't get to, or if I'm on a call,
Save it.
screenshot it, whatever. There's different.
But at night, you
little
can
hacks.
program your email to send in the morning, so you're not sending off hours or whatever. So you can send the information. So if you see something, you flagged it. If you see a notification, then you send it out, and then you start looking at your network. And we've been down this about what to do. But
use technology to your advantage. We came from a place where we had to go into a building physically and apply to an actual person and hand off a resume in order to be seen.
But that's how my stepdaughter got hired today. Like this day, both jobs was going out. I was like, print off some resumes, go, because it was all like, oh, I went into the town. I'm like, no, print off some resumes. Now these are frontline, independent contributor, whatever roles. But that's how she got hired on the spot. She followed up with one of them. They kept saying, no, we're not hiring right now, but she kept following up. She got the restaurant job, and they're now saying, we're so thankful to have you. She's working in a restaurant as a hostess. And the other one,
ours is working in a shoe store, but you have to go in, and as soon as they met her, they're like, oh, we love you. We want to come back for an interview. And she got the job. It's you have to invest into yourself. And you can sit around and think, I can just send it out by email or whatever. There's still that networking, especially for higher level jobs, reaching out to people that in similar industries. Do you know this person? Can you put in a good word for me?
Golf tournament.
All of it. It's like I said, when I talk about networking, it's not just reaching out to your LinkedIn, it's just having your own personal network that you can say, hey, I'm looking at this, anybody. And then, so, final question. What's one action today that any listener to this podcast can take to get closer to their dream job?
Oh, if I was to do one thing, I would write down, do goal setting.
Goal setting?
Yeah, do goal setting for yourself. Figure out where your end goal is, and then make a plan to get to that end goal. And it'll take however long it takes, but if you don't have anything written down on paper, you don't really have a plan as to what it is you're doing. You're just going through life.
Mine would be back to networking. Network with people and find out who's hiring. Find out if somebody in your circle has a dream job. Hey, are you guys hiring? You know?
Yep. And maybe not necessarily starting out in that company, in that dream job, but it could be the mail clerk in the big building of the legal office that you want to be in.
Career planning to get there.
You're just getting your foot in the door, go in, network, prove yourself, show them that you're reliable, and mentor your way in there.
See?
Thanks, guys.
Keep your resume open, too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Keep your resume open.
That is a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that.
Go ahead.
Wow.
What? You should do that. It's good to keep on your resume. Just don't come asking for a reference.